My name is Mike Berman, and I am president of the National Museum of American Jewish Military History. As we follow our religion and light our Hanukkah lich and we light the Hanukkah, let us remember why we do so. It memorializes the fight of Yehuda HaMaccabee, the Judah the Maccabee, and his family and followers as they fought to be able to follow their religion, our religion. We are fighting the same battles again. We must fight and preserve our right to be Jews. We must fight and preserve the rights of everyone to follow their religion, regardless of any other factors. In this pandemic, and we are stuck in our homes, let that light of the Hanukkah lich bless us and keep us, and remember that we are Jews, and we must fight for our religion and the right for all to preserve their right to follow their religion. Again, thank you very much, and have a very bright and cheerful Hanukkah.
There's a tradition of Hanukkah in the American military going back to George Washington. The story goes that in 1777, in the freezing cold of Valley Forge, Washington is worried about how the war is going. He sees his men around him exhausted without enough food to eat, some without shoes or coats in the snow. A string of recent defeats has him wondering if his Continental Army can possibly win this war. When things seem at their worst, Washington spots a soldier in a makeshift shelter lighting candles. Washington approaches the soldier, who tells him he was born in Poland and is lighting the candles as he used to back home for the first night of Hanukkah. The general's never heard of the holiday, and he asks the soldier to tell him more. The soldier relays the story of the triumph of the Maccabees, military victory against the great enemy who tried to deny them their religion, how they restored the desecrated temple after their victory, and the miracle of the oil lasting 8 nights in the temple menorah. Inspired by the story, Washington returns to finding ways to defeat the British. Now, there are a lot of reasons to be skeptical of this story. The source is a diary of Louisa Hart, who relates that Washington told the story to her father at a dinner before she was even born. But the spirit of the story, connecting ancient warriors to modern ones, will continue throughout the history of America's wars.
I'm Jeffrey Sachs, National Commander of the Jewish War Veterans for 2020 to 2021, and I'd like to wish all my comrades a happy Hanukkah. Wherever this may find you, whether it's hunkered down protecting yourself from COVID-19 or possibly on the front lines deployed somewhere in the world, I wish you a healthy and happy year. And remember that you are the modern Maccabees. Carry on.
When the U.S. entered World War I in 1917, military camps sprung up across the country to train our men and women. By December, many of them held Hanukkah celebrations. In his memoir, On Bloody Paths, a soldier known to us only as S. Cohen described the feelings evoked by celebrating Hanukkah at Camp Gordon, Georgia. Member Schwartz played the song Hope, piano accompaniment from Member Bloom. It made our hearts joyful to hear the strong young voices singing songs of hope. We did not want to break off from singing this Jewish hymn, which we repeated again and again. For a long time, people could not tear themselves away from the hall and the people with their many dear and beloved brothers. A puzzled guard with a rifle on his shoulder showed himself, looked at the unusual group, then went away, disappointed, into the darkness, back to his post, undoubtedly thinking to himself, "What's with the Jews?" And the Jews returned to their barracks, but took a long time to get to sleep. Thousands of thoughts and feelings were crowded into the heads of the Jewish soldiers. A happy Friday evening, and many joyful eyes had a hard time closing. That is how we celebrated Hanukkah.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner she'Chanukah. Amen.
With over 500,000 Jews in service, American service members celebrated Hanukkah across the world during World War II. Even under the absolutely worst conditions, some found a way to observe the holiday. Lester Tenney was a survivor of the Bataan Death March who'd been sent on a hell ship to a POW camp in Japan. The American prisoners of war were subject to tremendous abuse from the Japanese. In his book, My Hitch in Hell, Tenney described how they came to celebrate Hanukkah, even under these circumstances. In the spirit of the holiday season of 1944, Major Mamorow informed all of us Jewish men that he wanted to help us celebrate Hanukkah. He offered to post a series of American guards at the entrance to an air raid shelter so that those of us who wanted to attend religious services inside could do so without the Japanese disturbing us. We had discovered long ago that the Japanese were very anti-Semitic. In our conversations, a few of them insisted that Adolf Hitler was doing the right thing. Japanese civilian workers would ask a prisoner, "Is number 313 Jewish? Is number 264 Jewish?" A positive answer always resulted in a severe beating for the Jewish prisoner. Major Mammarau did what he had promised for Hanukkah, and we Jewish prisoners enjoyed services without any interruptions. When the services were over, we walked out of the bomb shelter. The American standing guard greeted us with a heartfelt, "Happy Hanukkah." In an interesting echo of the Hanukkah story, like their spiritual forebears, the Maccabees, American Jewish service members followed their military victory over an enemy who sought to destroy Jews by restoring the temple. Synagogues across the world had been desecrated and needed to be restored and rededicated. This synagogue in Nancy, France, had been gutted by the Germans and turned into a storage facility. It had to be cleaned and restored in time to hold a Yom Kippur service. American soldiers did enough work to make the building usable, and services were held on September 27, 1944.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavoteinu bayamim hahem ba'azman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
The tradition of observing Hanukkah in the military continues to this day around the world.
So we were only in theater for about a month and a half. But Christmas was a big deal because for a lot of the people, this was the first Christmas they were ever away from home. It was kind of unique for me because out of 140 guys, I was the only Jewish person in my entire battery. And when you walk into our room, we had this little makeshift Christmas set up with a Christmas tree and a paratrooper hanging from the tree because we're all paratroopers. I got sent, my mom and my family had sent me a menorah with candles, and I had put this up by the tree. No one in my room had ever seen this before up close. I guess I was the first. For many of them, I was the first Jewish person they'd ever met. The first night we did this, everybody seemed to be really excited. And we had people come from other rooms just to pile into my room just to watch this happen for the first night of Hanukkah. So we did this. We all gathered around this nice little makeshift getup we had, and we did the first night of Hanukkah. In Iraq, there's no metal currency. There's only paper currency, like the little AFIs, POGs that have monetary value. I scooped up a bunch of them because no one ever spends them, and I handed them out as little Hanukkah gifts. It was really cool. It was a little puzzling for people, but it was really cool. One of my bunkmates came to me and asked. He was almost like a kid that came down to see the Christmas tree for the first time with presents underneath. He's like, "We get to do this again tomorrow, right?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." The next night, unfortunately, we weren't able to do it because, the nature of our deployment, we're going in and out of missions all the time. So I ended up going out on a mission and coming back. When I came back, the candles for our menorah were gone, and I don't know whether I misplaced them or we lost them or something happened, but they were gone. I came back off a mission, and my roommates had scoured the entire fob and found every candle they could find so we could do Hanukkah again. It was less about tradition and more about seeing like everybody partake in it, that was just kind of amazed by the whole thing.